My name's Rand Dower. I'm an enrollment counselor with Western Governors University's Teachers College and an alumni of the Business College. So there are a few different options, and then there's things that can even kind of coexist with those options. The two primary options that students are going to be faced with up front is going to be utilizing financial aid, which, depending on the degree level that you're looking at, you may have Pell Grants and stuff where you don't have to pay that money back, or you may not be Pell eligible and it'll just be loans. With the other option, it's paying out of pocket, which isn't always possible, but in my opinion, it's the most attractive. The reason that I feel that it's the most attractive is because when you're done with your program, you come out debt-free. I currently have about $60,000 in student aid that I have to pay back for my 2 degrees, and I would like to actually not have that debt. If I had been able to pay that out of my pocket, it would have changed a lot in my life as far as that goes. Looking back on my degrees, had I gone with WGU Business College for my second degree, I probably would have saved $15,000 over the school I went with. And that school, I actually went through that program on an employee discount through my wife's work. So anybody else without that discount, they would have saved $60,000 probably over what WGU's business college charges for a degree in the similar area. Now, there are some things you can do to help supplement your tuitions. WGU does offer some internal scholarships, so you can utilize those to help out, but they're never going to fully cover your tuition. So you still do need to rely on either out of your own pocket or financial aid, or if you happen to be a service member, you might have some veteran or military assistance that you can utilize. And there's a couple of other unique things that might apply to certain individuals, but they may not apply to others. Another thing I do recommend students to do is to look at grants. Sometimes states will have their own grants. Doing research in those areas, those might help you out. And then there's even a few federal grants for teachers especially that can be helpful, but you got to do your research on those things. Unfortunately, there's a lot of legwork into finding those grants. Other than that, one of the other things I do recommend students to look into is third-party scholarships. As long as they'll pay to WGU, then that's always a good scholarship to apply for. There are scholarships that'll only pay to specific schools, so obviously those really won't help if you're planning on attending Western Governors University. But there's general scholarships. A lot of things that I recommend are looking at the scholarships through social clubs, because they generally have scholarships because they do have to, in order to maintain their status, provide some sort of community service, which is usually a scholarship. Because I always recommend looking into those kinds of resources, but I want students to understand that that's going to be something that is kind of the frosting on top of the tuition. So there's always got to be a main structure, especially getting started. There's got to be a main structure in place to pay for the tuition. Scholarships will usually help with $1,000, $2,000, $3,000. But for the programs I enroll, it's almost $8,000 a year. And we're talking anywhere from 1.5 to 2 years before they get finished with a program, sometimes longer. There's a good chunk of change that scholarships won't account for that you definitely want to have a plan on.